Welcome to 50/50 Books, the book review podcast where the books are split in two, and figuring out just what is going on is always a toss-up. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jonathan. This episode we're reading The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig, up to but not including Chapter 41, New Room, Who This? So to start this episode, we're, of course, back in spooky season Horror Town, and this book has gone in hard on a lot of things that would be considered triggers. So just wanted to put up front that we always have the trigger warnings in the show notes. We also recommend you looking for them ahead of time, as that is a thing you're concerned about. Do we want to mention specifics for this, or do we want to leave it at that?
I mean, it's just kind of what you would expect, I think. A lot of violence, a lot of gore, some suicide thrown in there, more things.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm shocked whenever I get the gore descriptions in horror. This one I was less shocked than other ones. Maybe I think I was easy to cut, or it was easier for me to sort of glaze over it. But when it starts talking about, inside body parts being visible to just a person's eye across the room, that's where horror often becomes too much for me. But that part has been okay so far. It is really like one thing after the next in this book.
All right, you have like a thing about gore, right?
I really don't like gore. Yeah, it's easier for me to read it than it is to watch it, though. Like that's where it becomes hard for me to be a horror fan, because I really do love horror, but just some movies I can't do it. I just can't.
Gotcha.
Anyway, we're talking about The Staircase in the Woods. Halfway through, how are we feeling?
I feel like I have no major thoughts, which isn't a great way to start this.
Glad we're about to talk about all of our thoughts.
Yeah, the only weirdness that's happened so far, other than like something I actually want to have a conversation about, I guess, but a short little aside is the blurb does say it's been 20 years since the Maddie situation, but in the book, Hamish says it's been 30 years. So I'm assuming it's just a typo, like a mistake. It happens. But I was like, 30 years seems crazy, because that would put them at like 46, 47. There's like no fucking way.
So yeah, it's funny you'd point this out. I also caught this, I think. So it says 1998 is the year he goes missing, right? This book comes out in 2025. It mentions COVID. It doesn't mention our president, even though it mentions a president. So I think it's implied to be parallel to us.
Mm-hmm.
One way or another, it was either supposed to be in the present or in the recent present. And I don't think it could have been earlier than like 2023 is my guess. So I think it's at least been 25 years.
Oh, you think you're just splitting the difference?
Yeah, basically. I think it's been just based on that logic, because 20 years would be too soon for them to have experienced COVID.
Okay.
Unless we're to assume timeline changes, but I don't think that's what they're going for. I think they're going for the same time. So that does make them a bit older than I've been reading them. I think. I
agree with that.
Yeah, they feel like young adults, and we'll definitely talk about this going throughout. I think they act very young. Like they in many ways act not much older than their younger selves. To me, they're very teenagerly for the most part. The exception in my head is Hamish, but the rest of them are very teenagerly and don't act like they've been not in the same place for a long time. And they even mentioned too the whole I think Owen is the one who's I kind of hope that it's that thing where we go back after not being together for a long time and it's no time has passed. I think in some ways it is. Obviously in some ways it isn't. There's arguments, there's changes with Hamish, there's all the drama about Maddie, but behaviorally I do think they're similar.
Yeah, I can see that. I do think it works, though, because, it's obvious in Nick and Owen especially, and Laura's in denial, but, they really haven't been able to move on from this event. So them acting as children, or teens, technically, but still children, makes a lot of sense. Because, trauma-wise, they're kind of stuck here, so.
I don't blame them, for sure. But, yeah, I'd say for me, overall, I've had a good time reading it so far. It's filling my horror cup, doing the things I expected it to do in that realm. And it is I think it's nice to read this after having come off of a cozy mystery. I'm down for cozy mysteries these days. I like mysteries in general. It is a very different vibe, and I think that's really welcome.
For sure. Especially considering the last cozy mystery. It was a little silly goofy.
Exactly, yeah.
But since you brought up the Cozy Mystery we read last time, there was a point I had made in that in which I was getting a lot of Clue vibes. I complained about it, but I think this book also somehow does a similar thing. When we had mentioned we were reading this, I said it had kind of It vibes because of the group of teens or kids go through something traumatic, they leave, they get back together after years, right, to deal with this supposed thing. We even have this house or entity messing with their minds, playing with their fears. And there's even a jumping into the quarry scene in this book, which does happen in It, which threw me off a lot.
Oh, I didn't even think about the fact that that happened in It.
Yeah. And then obviously the group dynamic. We have the Losers Club, we have the Covenant, we have all of these boys with one girl in the group, and even some of that family trauma. I'm listing everything, I don't need to. But the point is, there is, like, obviously plagiarism and copyright and all of these things we've set in place. I don't think the author of the last book or the author of this book have copied anything. I think we're just kind of at a point, we've been there for a long time, in which nothing is really original anymore. And that's not a bad thing. Like, it's original to the effect that, like, you are writing it different than how I would write it, right? There's difference in that. But you have genres for a reason. You have tropes for a reason.
Tropes, yeah.
Yeah, you have archetypes for your characters for a reason. Like, you even have certain, like, heroes' journeys for, like, everything is kind of not mathematical, but, like, you can simplify everything into something formulaic, I suppose, right? And that's not a bad thing, right? Stephen King does not own a group of teens getting together and fighting something evil. It's just like these things happen and people are going to write about them in different ways.
Yeah, I think my thought on that is, like, there's varying levels of, I guess borrowing is the word, but, like, I think of just the idea of illusion, right? Like, referring to something that already exists. I think there's varying degrees of that. Sometimes it's direct, you name something. Sometimes you just refer to a concept from it. And sometimes you kind of follow its path, right? And that is, I think, how we get to genres a lot of the time. And I do think structure is a good thing in general. I kind of think back this is really digging into the past, into high school, when we, like, I think we had like a unit on formulaic fiction, and I think my biggest takeaway from that was like, oh, formulaic fiction isn't a problem. It's not necessarily like cheap, right? I think it can be those things, but like that's not the point when you're talking about formula fiction. It's like, what does the author use it for? Like, are they using it to make a point? What have they played with? What's different about it? Why didn't they write the same exact story? And why did they feel moved to write this one? So I think there's a lot of things to be pulled from it. I'd be curious to see. It's been a while since I've interacted with it, but I'd be curious to see what the connecting points are between this and that, and like what aren't, and like why did the author do this version of teens where one goes missing and comes back later on, like that. Like, why are we getting this version of the story? Because so far it feels like its own thing to me, but again, it's been a while since I've interacted with it. So
yeah, it's also been a while for me. So we're going off of memory here, but to your point, it's like the innovation of a thing, right? So yeah, this isn't like a complaint. I'm not complaining that this book is giving me it vibes. I just wanted to bring it up because, like, it's like fun to complain about it, but like I actually don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it would be disingenuous of me to like be mad at authors.
Also, for people who love a retelling, you know.
Yes, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with a retelling. Considering how many of the Greek ones I read, I really should not be speaking.
No, yeah. If anything, it just reinforces the point. It's not a bad thing.
But that's enough of that, I guess. The actual story itself, we have our cast of characters. And the first one, he's not actually there. Kind of. It's Maddie, who is the one that disappears. He is the golden boy, the best of them. So obviously he's the one that goes missing.
Yeah. That's how it's got to be.
We do have different timelines in this book. Like, we have chapters that are of what happened in the past, so we get to see. It's interesting because we have a lot of guilt from like Owen and like kind of Laura as well, because I think those are our like main characters in this. But it makes you think like they pushed him off the staircase,
Right.
with how guilty they feel.
Honestly.
Yeah, it turns out he kind of just went up himself and also dared. Yeah, he did it on his own volition.
Yeah, I mean, they all kind of resisted a bit too, and he's like, "I'm invoking the covenant." They're like, "Dude, come on!" Like, no. So it's not like it's not like they encouraged it either.
Yeah, I will say it'll be interesting to see more of him as much as we can at this point, just because like I think this goes for lore too, but there is something about the ideal family, right? Like,
yep.
Whether it's because of neglect and you have the house on your own, or because you have parents that push you to be better. Like, I don't know. We have a lot of bad parenting in this book, and obviously Maddie's are pretty bad, but they don't seem bad necessarily, right?
Right. There's a lot of coveting of other situations, right? Like, oh, like Nick has it great because his dad loves him, but there's kind of a neglect that he doesn't have a mom. And then there's like Laura's situation is cool because her parents are like, well, because her mom is never home. Like there's a lot of like this person has it, that person has it, and then like Maddie's parents care, like that's got its own thing. I think it all comes back down to the family behavior. I think it's going to become important, especially to learn more about Maddie's. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're being withheld a little bit on that information. I often complain about the withholding of information because I'm like, oh, it feels arbitrary. Like they're just holding back when like they should be like more clever about the way that they're putting this information down. I understand that we have information withheld from us in this story, and I have yet to feel that way. And I think the difference here is there's a lot of tension building coming from it. And I think there's like the back and forth between the present and the past, right? Where it's like we are getting something. We're getting bits and pieces where we can piece it together. We're just not getting the direct, like, we haven't seen interactions with Maddie and his parents as an example. So I'm kind of liking the way that information withholding is going in this book compared to some of the ones we've read in the past.
Yeah. I think it's also the parental situation, and then also just like Maddie as a character. Like, I think he is glorified in this moment, right? Like, because they only remember how he was. But there's something about this group and the way they kind of all romanticize each other.
Right. The whole, like, Nick being jealous of Owen thing.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I'll talk about this in my theories, but, like, they are a group. They're basically a family, right? The Covenant. Mm-hmm. Like, they're supposed to be the most important people to each other, but, like, they don't really know each other at all, do they?
I think, yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe we should save some of this because I do think there's a big communication point to be made here, and I think that's going to come up later. But I think you're right. To a degree, I think some of them know each other. I'd like to think Owen and Laura do know each other at least more than others in the group, but there's still missing pieces there too.
Yeah. It'll just be interesting if we get, like, within the house, because it's kind of showing, I guess, different... I don't know if it's people that have ended up there, but like maybe, but also like different parts of these characters. Like if we'll get a room that's about Maddie, right? And just kind of see like the truth of him in a way they don't expect.
Right, exactly. And I do think there's a truth to be uncovered here. So I'm hoping we get something like that.
Yeah, I think that'll be the most interesting for Nick because he's the one that's been searching, right? So
yeah, he's so motivated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do think it is interesting the way they decide to remember him. I think Laura is the closest to remembering what happened with like the proper lens as far as like Maddie just going and running, because her guilt is this feeling of like, oh, because I did this thing, right? It was like I confronted him with the drugs and he didn't want to take them. Like that sent him over the edge and that made him do this. And so like she's taking the guilt. And that's like the closest thing to the truth because he did go over the edge, right? Like I don't know if it was really that specific thing. Like it's unclear why he became so extreme afterwards because we haven't like seen in his head. We can only theorize about it. Mm-hmm. But he does go kind of extreme and like decide to be erratic, which is unlike him. And then people don't know how to respond, right? Like that is really what happened. The fact that Laura's taking guilt from that is unfair to herself, but like otherwise that is the truth.
Yeah, Laura's makes sense. Owen's is still surprising. I feel like he can't help it, though, obviously. With his OCD, he has obsessive thinking. But, like, it is... I say this a lot. It's interesting. But it is that, like, Nick presents I think it's Nick. He presents Maddie going up the staircase as like he went up alone. Nobody was there. We didn't follow him.
Right.
The Covenant.
I think he even blamed Owen for a moment when he was talking about that, where he was like, you didn't follow in after him.
But like the only one who did follow him and go on the stairs was Owen. I was very surprised to see that.
Me too. Well, that's why I also got especially upset when Nick came for him like that, because I was like, wow, like in the end, Owen is the only one who even took a step on that staircase. Mm-hmm. And it's not like Nick ran up there after him. So why are we blaming Owen?
I know. Poor Owen. I feel like he's getting hated on for so much for like no reason.
I think we feel it extra because we see so much of his own head, which is also him hating himself.
Yes.
And so like I think obviously this hate he's getting from the others, like Laura and Nick, honestly, right? Like I think it is unwarranted in many ways. I think it just feels a lot worse because he's also unwarranted hating himself a lot more for stuff he doesn't have control over, which in the context makes sense. It's kind of frustrating to watch because it's like, oh, come on, Owen, but like it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I'm very concerned for like the idea of like his arc is like he stops thinking like that, right? But like he can't, right? It's not possible really for him. It's not like a change in perspective type of situation. Like he has OCD, he has obsessive thinking, and he doesn't have his meds, right? So it's like I'm interested to see how the author will deal with that, because so far, I mean, I'm not super familiar with OCD, but like I'm not concerned so far about how it's being handled, I guess, in this book, right?
Yeah. Are you like afraid there will be like a he's healed arc?
I mean, partially it's either that or like the fact that it was only him and Lore that saw the house in the like when Maddie was going up the stairs. There's always that concern of like drugs for Lore, I guess, and like a difference in like a neurodivergence being able to show you the truth of a situation, right? Like giving you some kind of special, like, some sort of special.
Yeah,
yes.
You got it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's what it was going for, because I think they say like Nick and Hamish were like effectively tumbling on the ground. So like that feels like enough reason that they wouldn't have seen it. I think maybe had they been looking at it, they would have seen it too. But I can understand the concern for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think my guess is that it'll be okay. I think there's even the potential for him to like gain a better relationship with some of these memories. I don't think that is going to fix his OCD. I think he'll obviously continue to have obsessive thoughts, just maybe over different things or different angles, or, you know, maybe he'll come back and forth into it, but have at least an improved relationship with it.
And of course, like meds are very helpful, but there are like coping mechanisms you do.
Yeah.
And so far his have been pretty like self-harm-esque, right? Like chewing on himself and things like that.
Yeah. Those descriptions are some of the ones that get me in this book as far as the gore.
He might learn better ones, or at least like his friends might step up in like a meaningful way.
True. Right. Because part of this story too is that they were a tight group, at least relatively, for high schoolers, you know, and that they just really haven't been since then, right? Since this night.
Yeah.
So there is the potential for like the recreation of bonds and the support system part of it, which is what the Covenant, I think, is supposed to be at its core, despite some of the other things that got brought in.
Yeah, so I don't know. So this is a crazy take, maybe because it's a horror book, but like this feels like a book in which you have like a hopeful ending.
No, I agree. I'm always, you know, I often don't come to my episodes ready to guess who's going to die in a book. You know, I've had this issue before. I'm trying to be better about it. This is one where I really was like, is someone going to die though? Like, would that make sense in the context of this book? I still brought my guess because I don't want to be got. I feel like I get got all the time on that. But I could see this being the case where that's not going to happen, and it is meant to like give them all an experience where they come together and grow from it.
Mm-hmm. Not hopeful, though, I will say. I don't think... Well, I mean, Lore is aromantic anyway. Of course, that's a spectrum, so, like, could she develop feelings, like romantic feelings? Still possible. Like, it's not out of the equation.
I mean, she was, like, about to go for Maddie.
Yeah, but I think she was a teen that didn't know what aromanticism was.
I think so, but I think there's some part of her that feels that. Maybe you're right, though. Maybe, like, the angle is different now, right? Like, she's coming back for Maddie because she feels guilt and responsibility, and I think she does feel closeness to him, but maybe it isn't romance.
Yeah, I think I mean, all this to say, I think like Owen and Lore will not end up together, point blank.
Oh yeah, I agree.
But I don't think Owen cared that much. Like, I think he cared, but I think he was willing to like just be friends with her. You know, I think everybody else cares more about Owen's feelings than Owen did.
I totally agree, because you're right. He like his whole thing is trying to work through like, oh, I want to be happy for her, and then he feels guilty about being jealous, even though that's like a totally normal teenage feeling, especially a teenager, but always feeling to have.
Mm-hmm. But for Lore, like, I think the problem with her as a teen is like, well, first of all, aromanticism like was not a term in the 90s, but
Yeah.
also like Lore has made it very apparent she doesn't want to be alone. She still wants to be independent. We're a paradox like that, but like, so I think for her, in her mind, the way to not be alone is to be in a relationship, right?
Ooh.
So like that's why she accepts Maddie, because it's not so much that she's like in love with him, but like
She's still seeking companionship.
yes, yeah. And it's hard to figure out how to do that in like as with like a platonic partner when you're a teen in the 90s, right? Like that's just not something you do.
So I almost had the opposite thought coming into this episode about this. And let me explain. And like something feels weird about it, so just excuse me if this comes off wrong. But I was almost wondering if she was extending her commitment to independence to an understanding of herself as a romantic, even if that might not be the right description of herself, or at least she may come to a different conclusion afterwards. And the reason I say this is I think her like extreme level, like it is really an extreme commitment to independence the way she talks about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least in my opinion, it's like she's so committed to the bit on independence that she has maybe convinced herself that that means she should be aromantic, right? Like where it's like, I'm so independent that it doesn't make sense for me to be in a romantic relationship with someone. So therefore, like, I'm just going to keep the sex part and remove the relationship part, and therefore I'm aromantic. I wonder if, and this is where it could end up in the danger zone a little bit, if part of the sort of growth story she comes to is a better understanding of like how much of her is independent and how much of her does want to rely on other people and seeks other people in relationships. Like I wonder if any of that growth will have her reevaluate aromanticism and be like, maybe that was like too an extreme of a reaction to my desire for independence. Like I think it could be weird a little bit if that's the story, just because then it's like I don't want it to be saying the wrong thing about people who are literally aromantic, right? But I could see it connecting.
Yeah, it is difficult to get a read, right? Because it's a lot of it seems to be based on commitment issues, right? She just doesn't want to be needed by other people mostly, right? She thinks
I think she doesn't want to rely on, like she maybe mistrusts people too.
Yeah, which obviously stems from like her home life, right? With like the neglect and everything. I don't know, because it's bleeding into other relationships too, right? Like friendship wise, we don't know if she has any friends at all,
right?
So like, and that's not an aromanticism problem. Not that it's a problem, but like that's not tied to aromanticism. That's just tied to like maybe her not being able to develop deep connections with anyone.
Right. Like in a sense, it's almost like the aromanticism isn't the source; it's like the side effect of her commitment to independence.
Mm-hmm.
But just to say, like, I don't know, sexuality and stuff like that changes for people, so it could or could not change for her, and it would be okay.
Yeah, like, I don't think it's I mean, people would still attack the author, I think, but, like...
I think so, too.
I once read a book called Ramona Blue, I think it was, where, like, the main character thought she was a lesbian, and then it turned out she was bisexual, right? And people were so mad because they thought it was like, lesbian erasure,
like
things like that. Yeah. And that's like a fair point, but I also think you don't need to take your label to the grave, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Even me at the old age of like 29 or whatever, I'm still figuring things out and kind of just tossing labels around. Like you kind of just do what you do.
Exactly.
It's whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of hypotheticals there. I'm not sure that's the direction it's trying to go, but I could see it.
Yeah. I don't know if we'd have time necessarily for like a romantic shift in perspective, but I think at the very least we'll get like it's okay that people rely on me and that I rely on other people. Yeah,
she can at least like start forming normal relationships, not necessarily have to start romantic ones.
Yes, yeah. And I definitely think like her realizing Owen isn't obsessed with her is like a good start. Because
Well, the thing is, Owen is still a little obsessed with her, though.
But I think for like a different reason. Like, I don't think he's in love with her in the way she thinks he is still. Like, I think they were best friends, and then she left and like stole the work they had done together and became a successful game maker and kind of left him in the dust.
Yeah. No, it's that's how I would describe it as well. That's a good point. And I think there's a bit of like almost breadcrumbing that Owen is experiencing where there are things tying to her. So there's like there's the game, and there's this like frequent like, how do I explain? There's frequent mention of her leaving him behind, basically. Like physically as well, that I think leaves Owen wanting more like acceptance or validation from Laura, even if that isn't to a romantic degree.
Yeah.
Especially because it's clear that whether or not he's still holding feelings of romance, he obviously still cares about her and has cared about her the whole time and like does want her happiness, and that's why he feels all his complicated feelings. So yeah, I guess it makes sense that he would still kind of be going after her and seeking after her after all this time, even if it's not romantic.
This group is just not talking to each other, right? Like, they didn't talk in the past. Laura just decided to get with Maddie, and it didn't seem like they had any kind of conversation about anything. And then even now, Owen is like, we should talk about this in the house, and Laura like brushes him off.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you move on from something? You have to like deal with it, right? Like, for Nick, that's finding Maddie. And then for this group, it's communicating about our problems.
What's so funny, though, is like, this might end up getting too far into Laura, but like, Laura is that person. She comes in hard when she meets up with the group, right? She's very confrontational. She's like talking about how her conversation style is going to be the equivalent to bloodletting. Like, we're just going to put it out there and deal with the problem like as aggressively as we need to. But then she's kind of picky and choosy about it, right? Because she doesn't really confront all of the issues with Owen. She confronts the game, right? And she's like, you're jealous, which also rude. But like, she doesn't necessarily confront like the whole, like, she had a romantic relationship with Maddie and that like she knew Owen was crushing on her and never really talked about it, and the makeout, right? Like, she knows all these things when she's deciding to come in hot. She's just deciding not to come in hot on things that she feels she's in the wrong for.
Right. And Owen like tries to call her out in a similar way. Like when they're in the living room and he's like, you ran up the stairs because you feel like guilty about Maddie, whatever. Like, she denies it. She's still denying things. Mm-hmm. And I think partially she still believes those denials. So she's like still tricking herself. But like, yeah, whenever anything is pointed at herself, she lashes back. Like, as soon as Owen says that, Laura immediately attacks him instead. And then I think Nick even chimes in. And I'm like, why are we picking on Owen? What is happening here? Yeah, I think, Laura, it seems confrontational. I do like that about her. We kind of like are just doing things, but there is like she thinks she needs to be kind of the leader of the situation.
Right, which she gets called out for too, I think.
Which, Owen calls her out for. And she denies, but like, she's holding herself to a very high standard, but then like not reflecting on anything wrong she's doing.
Yeah, it does feel like a bit of a hero complex, right? Like, I'm gonna solve everything, like, this is to do with me. Like, she, has her moment where she's like, I'm gonna leave them behind, right? Like, things like that. Or I think that's like deep in the core of Laura, that's what she believes. Like, she needs to go ahead, and that she is in the right. Like, she has got kind of, and I do hate describing anyone this way, but she does seem a bit self-righteous, like, just in the style that she communicates with. Like, she has that whole conversation with Hamish at the beginning, right? Where she's kind of like calling him out for voting for the shitty guy, right? Mm-hmm. And like just becoming the person he's become, quite frankly. And while I would 100% understand a frustration with one of my childhood friends becoming a supporter of someone who I see as vile, she like digs in so deep for so long to the point where I'm like, what is this about anymore? Like, is this actually about a political upset? Are we having a political conversation, or are we just like trying to take this man down? Like, or it was like, I'm confused about where we're going with this, and like I struggle because I'm all for calling it out, right? I'm like, yes, put it on the table, like make people confront the ideas that they claim to have or that they support. But on the other hand, like, I feel like Hamish is trying to have conversation about it, and is like just continually being attacked. Like she's not meeting him for conversation. She's actually just telling him what she thinks, and that's all she actually wants. So like that's the part where I struggle with Laura. I'm like it becomes frustrating to read these long rants and these long passages of like her innermost thoughts that she's been holding on to for all this time, when I don't feel like there's a balance to the conversation or a desire to have conversation.
Yeah, it could almost be seen as like a negative portrayal of, I don't know, the woke left. I don't know how else to put it.
Right.
I don't think the author is going for negative. I think it is important to understand like how confrontational even the most woke people are. Like they feel like they're being attacked, and for the most part they are.
Right.
We see Laura like is going through a lot of hate comments. Like
you can
obviously
certainly
she's
see
online.
why she feels so defensive, right?
Yeah, but there is like an issue with lore and with the internet and social media in general where like people are always trying to be the moral authority.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, like have kind of like that savior complex, like, but there isn't any use in, I don't know, I see this all the time too. Like there's no use in just attacking people or harassing people. It's supposed to be discussion or educating.
Yeah.
Like, why did Hamish vote for the vile guy?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, that's worth asking.
Exactly, like getting the path, because he also mentions, like, I think it was stupid and I regret it. So, like, there's not, like, that would have been a great path to investigate further, you know?
Yeah. And then, obviously, she's also making assumptions about what he's like. And they haven't spoken in a very long time, but I don't know, you knew this person. You went through something very traumatic together. I think you can give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt and at least hear them out, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I say I struggle with it because on one hand I am kind of like pro like be loud about things, you know?
Yes.
Like, yeah, because like we want to make sure that all of these opinions, I mean, especially the ones I share, I'm going to feel this way about, but in general, the opinions are getting shared, right? And like people are hearing them and being a part of the, I don't know, common conversations of the day, right? Like I think that's all very important. So like I want people to put it out there and like challenge people, but there's something missing here, which I think you kind of targeted it with what you said. Because there's the other part of it, like the part I'm not saying is like the other part of it is like sometimes the conversations are not productive and some people don't really warrant conversation and they're not looking for good faith conversation, but I just don't think that's the situation we witnessed here, and that's the problem I have.
Yeah, it seemed like Lore was enthusiastic to attack Hamish, which like should never be the goal.
Yeah, it's just confrontational.
Yeah. But yeah, she's confrontational except with herself.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the issue she's having right now.
And to bring it back to Owen for a second too, it is funny that we kind of got this storyline that was present in the last book we read of like they made a game together, but then one of them ran off with it.
Yeah.
Because she's like definitely in the wrong for that, right? There was no question in the last book that the other guy was in the wrong for the way he approached it, right? Like I extend that right here to like Laura's in the wrong for this. She's like convinced herself that Owen is a drag and therefore like she's like, oh, you weren't doing anything with it. And I'm like the thoughts I was having, I was like, there is a very clear path of what one should have done in this situation. If Laura was feeling like Owen was not helping out and Owen was not the person for this, right? Like one was like conversation with Owen. Obviously that didn't happen, right? But I have a conversation with Owen of like, do you want to do this? Is this the thing we're doing together? Do you have the motivation to do this? And if not, can I take it?
Mm-hmm.
Something very formal. Number two is like, say, hey, Owen, like this isn't working. Do you want me to continue to work on this game and you will get royalties? You'll get your name credit, like something like that, right? Like some way where like she can still do that thing and bring it to the big name company or whatever. That doesn't like just totally leave Owen behind. But the answer to this is not just run off with the game. Like, and I don't mean this from a legal perspective. I don't really give a shit about the legal perspective. Like, it's just the courtesy perspective of you shared those ideas together and created them together. Even if you could like claim the full legal right to these things, it's just not right as a human to not include Owen in some way, even if it's not creatively continuously, even if it's just for what he's already done.
Right. And there is something about that moral high ground again, because we learn Lore was the one that tried to keep the group together. Like they have a Zoom call together. Like there's effort being made to keep the group together. That doesn't work out, but like Laura is apparently the one to do that. So it's interesting that she's the one taking this game, and obviously Owen isn't going to complain about it, at least not vocally. And she's still the one being like, but I'm keeping the covenant together.
Right.
I'm going after Maddie. I'm leading the group. Like, she's still like putting herself above everybody else.
And in a sense, taking credit, right? Like, because Nick is the one who summoned them here. Nick is the one who continued doing the research, right? Like, I feel like the rest of the group is doing a better job of trying to listen to each other than Laura is. So it's not being backed up by her actions.
Yeah. And like, this might be like its own discussion. I don't know. But like, Laura also kind of just embodies something we've talked about on the podcast before, but like the things you have to do to succeed in general, right? Like the isolation.
And like leaving people behind, yeah.
Leaving people behind, taking so that you can climb the ladder, like all of that kind of stuff. And we're seeing like, I guess it's a good life, but also everybody kind of hates her. So is it a good life? I don't know.
I think she's convinced herself it's a good life, at the least.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure she believes it either.
I don't know if any of these characters have really succeeded. Maybe Hamish.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you talk about this traditional success thing, I feel like that embodies what Hamish is going for.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, the way I see Hamish is like, we had Maddie as the golden boy character, right? He had all of the, the pieces lined up to have a very traditionally successful life. And we see that Hamish changed a ton since childhood. He was like very impressionable and like just like, I don't know, go with the flow basically.
Mm-hmm.
And now he cares a lot about his health. He's got traditional money making jobs like real estate. He has a family, a couple kids, all like very traditional path things. I almost feel like why Hamish changed so much when Maddie left was because he decided he was going to live the life that Maddie was supposed to live.
That is interesting. I think the interesting thing is like almost all characters, maybe except for Owen, were like given a purpose because of Maddie. Because we know Laura decided to succeed over everything because Maddie was supposed to succeed over everything, right? And then Nick made his single focus finding Maddie, finding the staircase. So then Hamish is also kind of like, if we go with what you're saying, like the life he's built for himself is based around Maddie as well. I think that only doesn't maybe work for Owen. Like Owen is still kind of obsessed with the staircase, but like not to the effect of Nick, right?
Yeah, I think Owen's thing is kind of lack of motivation, so I think that does kind of excuse him there.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing about Hamish is that he's like the most scared. Like they keep talking about like, oh, we expect Owen to be the worst, but it's really Hamish who's the worst. To which my only thought is it's like, I mean, this man does have a family and the rest of you don't. And I do think you probably gain a greater fear of death once you have a kid,
Yeah. I think it's also reasonable from like an Owen and Hamish perspective to like want to find a way out and to live. Nick like calls them a coward or whatever, but like I don't think it's cowardly to want to kind of save your life. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think Hamish is of the opinion they shouldn't have gone in to begin with, which like I kind of get, right? Like the matter of the fact is that Maddie never came out of there. And so why should we think 20 something years later that because we go in there, we're going to come out of there?
Yeah. And Owen made a really good point that was just ignored. Like it's a different staircase in a different state.
Yeah.
It could go somewhere else. They don't know.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to do what they have done.
Yeah. Lore did kind of force their hands.
Yeah, for sure. Though it's still Nick's fault, just to be clear. Like,
yes.
He's the one who brought them all here and did this bullshit, so.
Yeah.
It's tough because in a case like this, it's unclear whether or not that person is dead, right? And it would be a lot more relieving to know that they were, than to think that maybe they're stuck in some sort of liminal space. And so for that, I can maybe understand a continued interest. Do I think the right answer is to just go ahead and run in? Like, we couldn't at least have, had someone stand on the outside with a string and try to like make some connection to the like grounding to the real world. Did we really all have to launch ourselves in there? Probably not the right move, but I can understand a desire to do something about it. It just, this is not doing the exact same thing that clearly did not lead to a successful ending, not the right way to do it.
Yeah. And based on what we've seen from the inside, there's like no real way to plan this. Like,
oh yeah, because everything just moves around.
yeah, they try to talk about like, oh, this is a game. We just have to kind of map out the area and find the way. And it's like you can't really map out a moving space. So it doesn't matter that it's a game and it's like D&D. Like it's not possible to plan for any of this.
To which I say, I don't think it's a game.
Oh.
Like, I understand why we're trying to make this connection, right? Like, lore being like, oh, it's like a video game. And I can maybe understand to the quip, which I think is what the last book was going for, of like using some video game logic or game logic in general to plan and address how the world is working around you. But I do not think we can call this structure like a game. And I think that's like the biggest point of argument for me, is that it's not a consistent map, but it's not an understandable world. And I think those are like, maybe not a consistent map. Maybe that's not necessary for a game, but I think an understandable world is, at least for a normal video game, required, unless we're talking about things on the edge, which I don't think is what we're going for here. So I wouldn't use, I wouldn't use that as my guiding light.
Yeah, I think the problem is we're speaking of games in both books we've read as like this other type of thing. Like saying something is like D&D is fine, but the point of that is you're playing as something, like as a person that has actions, and to like, there's no use in thinking that way, because you are still a person that has action and
Really?
it has to do things. Like,
that's true.
You know what I mean?
Game aside, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's not a useful thought process, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm like, I don't think that's like, I don't know. I don't know if I like that particular feature. Not to say I don't like, oh, this is horrible, but just like, I don't know if that's going to do them any good.
Yeah, because I don't know how it goes from here. Like, you clear a room in essence. Like, I guess is the mentality we're gonna have.
Just the fact that you can like close a door and open it, and now it's a new room, right? Like that's what happens with Owen at the end there, right? At the end of this half, it's like, okay, they literally opened a door to the same space, and it is not the same space. Like, what do you do with that? It's just, at that point, you just accept it's out of your hands. You know?
Yeah.
Also, like, Owen's instinct to separate himself from the group is deeply frustrating.
You were frustrated.
Yes.
Oh.
Like, when he does that, right, when he closes the door because he sees, like, the image of his dad in the dark room, right? Like, as though it's a dark bedroom, and he's, like, on a bed. And he, like, closes the door. Like, he understands that the house moves and that rooms are not promised. So the fact that he instinctively closed the door, very frustrating. The other main instance that's less frustrating but still frustrated me a little bit was with the girl, Marshy, right? Where the rest of the crew leaves the room, but he kind of stays behind because I think he kind of just sees himself in Marshy with her story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like trying to get more understanding and ask her questions. But I'm like, I thought that's where they were going to separate. And I was shocked to see Owen be okay with being alone until I saw that he was like low-key willing to die, right? But before that, I was like, wow, like, why would you want to separate? Why would you want to be alone? Why would you not follow them out? Like, there's a good chance that if that door closes, you're not going to see them again. And so I thought it was immensely lucky that Lore was able to open the door and pull him through it, because I just didn't think that was going to be an option. Like, I thought this house was going to want to keep him separated once that happened, and maybe just have him die, because that's what looked like was going to happen. So anyway, all that is to say, just like Owen's instinct is separation, where I feel like typically the anxiety response that you would see is clinging, and he's just not that.
I think the issue is starting with like the Marshy situation. We see it with Lore in the bathroom. It's not necessarily that these characters want to be alone. It's that the house makes them want to be alone, right? Like, we spoke poorly of Lore, but like she is trying to keep the group together. But like you can see when she's
she definitely fights back against that.
Yeah, in the bathroom, it's kind of like I should just leave them behind, like all of that kind of stuff. So I think for Owen, it kind of goes the same way in the bedroom. Like it's the house more so feeding into his thoughts. I think it's hard to tell with Owen because of his obsessive thinking and because he's so negative about himself. It's harder to like tell the difference between the house and between Owen, I think.
That's a good point, where it's like this might have been put here for the purpose of like, this is, if to me it felt like Marshy was there for him because she did have the closest story to his of unrequited love. And so I could definitely see that being the case of like this story, like in other parts of the house, we've seen some things connect to the characters, right? Like the knife with Owen, or like that room being a house that Hamish had to sell, like things like that. But having a whole like different character who's fully unrelated to them directly, right? Like Marshy is not them, right? Not their group. So that it, of course, begs the question, why is she here? And so I could see the house pulling her in as like, yeah, sort of a temptation of Owen's darker side to like, yeah, either separate him out or get rid of him.
Mm-hmm. I actually think Marshy connected to a few of the characters, because like Hamish mentions it looked like his daughter, which I don't think was a coincidence.
That's a good point, yeah.
And then when Laura was reading the diary, she mentioned hating Marshy because she felt similar to Marshy, right? Like,
that's also true.
Don't put all your hopes on a boy. That's a stupid thing to do. And that's kind of what Laura did with Maddie.
Right.
So, yeah, I think Marshy was kind of an all of them, but Owen's the one that kind of got stuck.
All right, fair point.
Yeah. For the dad situation, though, for the door, I didn't mind him closing the door just because I think the groups are so funny.
Okay.
But
chaotic.
No, I think I understand why he did that. Like, his dad was, to my understanding, verbally abusive, probably.
Yeah.
And so, like, this room was obviously made for Owen. And so there's just kind of like a visceral reaction to seeing that. So you kind of just don't want to see it, right? So you close the door.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes sense to me.
Close the door, I guess. Feels extreme.
But I think the house did want to separate them, right? And I think this was the way.
Yeah. I'm not excited for the incessant bullying he's about to get from Nick for it, though.
Nick needs to calm down. Let's talk about Nick.
Let's talk about Nick. Because Nick probably gets on my nerves the most out of any of these characters. They all have something I don't like about them. And that is to say, I don't dislike these characters, but they all do have something I dislike about them. Nick, I might actually just dislike. Because he basically trapped them here, right? Like, first of all, he lied about speaking of cancer. He lied about having cancer so that he could force them all to come out. He, for the nth time, abused the Covenant and got them to go into this, I don't know, self-destructive situation. Like, this is, to me, the biggest betrayal one can make on a former friend group.
I think Nick might be one of my favorite characters.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe I'm contrarian.
I mean, go for it, of course, but I think he's the most disrespectful in pretty much every sense of the word. Planning, in person, like, just all around.
I think he's doing the least amount of work in the murder house right now, which is a little bit interesting, but, like, I don't know what I like about him. I guess I like that he's a kind of an asshole.
He's not doing a lot of thinking now that they're in the house. Now, to his credit, he's done the most thinking before they got in the house because he's planned this.
True.
And also, he's been doing this for years with the emails, right? It's not even just that he plans this somewhat disrespectful situation, but he actually has been putting the work in. So I'll give him credit for that. What he's not doing a good job of is thinking, and that's a problem because he wants to just like bust through doors, basically. And we have no idea what we're working with. Like, I already described this as the reason I don't think this is a game is because it's very unpredictable. It's not really understandable. So him just like busting through doors is very dangerous.
He does get described as being like a gun, right? Like, you kind of fire and he kind of just goes.
I would describe him as a dangerous person, just like based on him, like all of the stories and stuff. Like, this is not, just to be direct, I would not befriend Nick. He's not someone I would want to keep around me because I would feel unsafe around him most of the time, not knowing what he's going to do, say, or expect me to do or say. More importantly, like what he's going to try to push me into, pressure me into. So who's surprised really that he did this in the end? But like, this is not the sort of person I'd want to be around.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't condone his behavior. He did threaten one of Hamish's bullies with like a bullet.
God, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That was when I read that, I was like, if it were someone else, I might be more okay with this. But because it is Nick, who I think might actually do something crazy, this is not okay.
Yeah, it's just like we know he's erratic, but I feel like I still don't know a lot about him.
Yeah. Well, he's another one where like it's assumed, his group assumes he had a good relationship with his parents and a good home life. Well, with his dad and a good home life because of that. But we actually don't know anything.
Right. And for some odd reason, he was jealous of Owen, right? Like, I think similar to Maddie, for some odd reason, there's still a lot of him that just isn't known. And so far, none of the rooms in this house have, like, picked at him yet.
I think he's probably the hardest to pick. I'm sure it'll happen, but like he is not, because he's not doing as much of the thinking. Like I think he's less impressionable right now.
That's a fair point.
But maybe it's the sort of thing where it just takes one strong thing to get him.
It might also be easier now because the group is smaller.
True. And now he's upset too, for that matter.
Yeah.
He was also trying to separate the group himself, right? So he was subject to this too, where he like approached Laura and was like, "Listen, like I just don't think those two are in it. Like we can like go and like go find Maddie, you know."
I love that. Yeah.
she was like, "Stop whispering. We're not doing this."
Yeah, she shut that shit down.
Yeah, for the better. Yeah, dude, I was like, no one, like, haunted house / horror movie protocol had been mentioned multiple times, and yet like only one person seems to know anything about that. Like. No one else seems to be following that.
Yeah.
But I guess it wasn't up to them anyway. They were going to get separated.
I don't know. I guess I like that he's just kind of a loose cannon right now. I don't know.
It's moving them forward, at least. There was a certain point where they're sitting in this room, like the real estate one, where I'm like, we've been here for too long.
I kind of felt like, maybe not that we've been here for too long, but like I don't feel like we utilized the time very well.
They also, like, the first thing they do in that room is pretty much just have a big argument. So,
yes.
Like, I don't think they're just in the mindset, like, moving rooms might just help them refresh, too.
Yeah. But I think, like we have that division, right? Laura and Nick want to keep moving, and then Owen and Hamish, like, they want to get out, but they're obviously very scared.
Yeah.
So I think Nick is just, like, more reckless in that. I think it's, like, whatever we have to do to find Maddie type of mentality. It will be interesting to see, like, what he's willing to do. Like, how close was Nick and Maddie as, like, a pair? Like, would he sacrifice one of his friends for Maddie? I don't know, because, like, the Covenant was the most important to him specifically, right? Like, yeah. It was everything to him. So, I don't know if he would do that.
That's not the vibe I'm getting, at least. I do think they all care about all of them, even if they weren't all equally close, so... I just think they're humans and they all have relationships and they get frustrated. I do think, yeah, Owen does take the brunt of a lot of that. But overall, I do think there's care in all directions.
And the brunt of that for some mysterious reason that I'm very curious to know.
Like why?
Yeah, like why? Like Nick doesn't even call him Owen, right? Like it's Nailbiter.
Or his last name, which I don't know how to say.
Yeah, so it's like, why? What is going on there? I'm so curious.
That's a good point.
Could it possibly be, and this is going to sound crazy.
Oh boy.
Could it be a love story?
I thought you were going to say that. Maybe. Like Nick is crushing on Owen?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
I could see it, honestly. There's enough unexplained here that I don't have counterexample, you know? And like for him to be like, I'm jealous of him, you know?
Yeah. And like, Laura obviously is queer, but like, one queer in the group? I don't think so.
That's fair. That's fair. I'd put that in the list of things I'd like to see and don't think I will, though. I don't think that's the direction it's going to go.
That's my theory. Nick's in love. Owen is bi. They get together. Oh damn.
Well, if that's not how it pans out, I'll look forward to the fanfic.
Yeah. Yeah, so we basically leave off with the groups being Laura and Hamish, and Nick and Owen. You know, they all have problems with each other, but like it's good that they're in separate groups to kind of deal with problems.
Right.
Laura and Hamish, they're kind of obvious, I'm assuming, with what they're going to have to deal with. And then Nick and Owen, still kind of a mystery, but, you know, I'm hopeful.
Yeah, there's obviously something to be worked out there. And at the least, there is kind of the two ideas, which you mentioned before, of like Laura and Nick being more on the Find Maddie side and Hamish and Owen being more of the Get Out side. So I think they'll have to confront that at the least.
Yeah. And then Laura and Owen are also kind of like the planners of the group. Like they're thinking through this as logically as they can, I think. So it's good that they're also on opposing teams here.
Yeah.
But I mentioned like a possible hopeful ending for this book. I think it's really just going to be about communication. Because we get this bit in the beginning with chapter 0 about friendship being a house, right?
Yeah, which I kind of liked that little metaphor.
Yeah, you have your private spaces, but then there's also these communal spaces that you share. And sometimes that house can go bad, which I think we see in this murder house.
Right.
It's literally falling apart. And so I think this murder house and like their friendship in general is just kind of an interconnected idea, right? Like they have to kind of start from scratch almost and rebuild a better foundation, a better house as friends. And that'll kind of get them through this experience. So Owen had the right idea, trying to communicate with Lore, but she wasn't there yet. And I think they just all need to become friends again.
I definitely see that. I think that's probably the point of this story, right? Is like them working through, like, this is a horror book, and how much have we talked about the like horror?
Right.
Because right, this is a book about the characters like going through their arc and figuring out their relationships and just like working things out, right? So I think it makes sense that that's how it would end. Now it is a horror book, so it could not end that way. It doesn't have to be a hopeful ending, but I do see that.
Yeah, because like as we've mentioned before, the Covenant is like an important group, but there are still a lot of secrets they kept from each other, and secrets they're keeping even now, like Owen with the knife, right? Like, why is it so important? Lore doesn't really know. She's theorizing. Is he going to use it on himself? Is he going to use it on me? Like, she doesn't know, but Owen has a long history of self-harm with that knife, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something he never told the Covenant. So we're just getting insight into like all of these little secrets, not even little, big secrets they kept from each other, right? So we'll probably have to work through everything the house throws at us because it's all going to be personal.
It's interesting you bring up the knife thing and how that's really like Lore just not knowing, like not having all the information, because I think you're right, that's what that is, but I was just like, oh, is this like foreshadowing, right? Like, is this telling me that there's going to be a moment in this book where there's a knife out and like potentially it's Owen, like, yeah, Owen trying to use the knife either on Lore or himself, like, is that trying to get us to theorize? But maybe it wasn't that at all. Like, maybe it really was just like her not knowing. Because then I started thinking about, okay, like, will he use it? Like, will he use it on someone?
I mean, that could be a fear later in the book, right? Like, if they start to not trust each other even more, then if he does get a knife, if he gets a weapon, it's like, can I trust him? Like, I don't know, but it's just like the reckoning of you don't actually know these people. Not just as like friends, as teens, you didn't really know each other, but also like it's been
a long time,
20 years. Yeah, so
that gives me some ideas and some concerns, because now they are in different groups, Owen and Lore, and that to me at least implies they're probably going to reconvene at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could imagine like Owen's walking around knife first, and like they like end up reconvening, and it's like, oh my god, like Owen is literally holding up a knife to Lore, but like not because he's actually going to do something with it, because then he's going to realize it's Lore. Or the worst version of this is he doesn't know it's Lore, so he goes guns blazing, knives blazing, I guess in this case, and actually stabs her.
Ooh, that
it could be tragic.
It's definitely something the house is probably capable of.
Right. I do think Owen would probably have to be alone for that to happen. I don't know if that would happen with both Owen and Nick.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how mad Nick gets. They might have like a fight and then separate.
True.
But yeah, that's my big theory, I guess. Power of friendship. Do they find Maddie in all of this?
What do you think?
I think they might find a version of Maddie. We've already kind of seen it, like the house pretending to be Maddie. But I don't know if you live in this place for 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's like it's outside of space and time situation, and so he'll be okay, but the author has gone out of the way to mention human needs, right? Like there's been sharing of food, there's been a bathroom break. Kind of implies to me that Maddie would need to do those things, and I'm not sure he would. I think this connects to one of my bigger theories about this book, whether or not we find Maddie, because my take on this book so far is that maybe the staircase is just a manifestation of effectively like suicide, like his decision to like not want to live anymore. And this is a bit of an extrapolation because we really don't know a lot about Maddie, but we do get this information that he's got a lot of pressure on him from his parents, like maybe to the point where they're drug testing him, right? And he's got kind of the typical golden boy pressures, and they all look up to him, and he sticks out from his friend group. He's like very different from them. So there's like a lot of little things here, no one strong thing, but I could at least see it being the direction of like Maddie is actually like deeply unhappy, and just like whatever stuff had been building up like came to a point of pressure when he had that interaction with Lore. And maybe it wasn't the fact that Lore was trying to have him do drugs specifically, like it was just like him being confronted with a thing he didn't want to do, or just like feeling like he didn't understand Lore as well as he thought he did, something like that. That really was like, okay, like now the pressure is built too high, and that's kind of why he went off the rails and decided to go on the staircase. And like I think what's important is how he's described as jumping off the staircase. He didn't know that there was going to be something behind him. He was going to hit the ground, and I mean, maybe it wasn't that tall, maybe he would have been fine, but maybe he wouldn't have been, or maybe he was hoping to not be. And so that's kind of why I started going this direction. Is like, maybe like even if Maddie went in there and survived, like maybe his goal was not to ever come back.
Right. Connecting it a little bit to some things we've talked about, like maybe that Lore moment was like maybe him understanding that this group didn't actually have an understanding between each other, right? Like they didn't know each other as well as they thought they did.
Exactly.
He's probably always felt isolated even by this friend group because everybody looks up to him, and then it was made worse by Lore doing what she did, trying to pressure him, etc., etc. Like, yeah, I could see something like that.
Yeah, I think there's a few other moments too that get on the suicidal ideation conversation, right? Like the Owen with Marshy part where he's like, yeah, maybe we should just die, right? And Lore talking like when this happens, first of all, she almost runs off the cliff, right? And then also just her dashing into the staircase when they get back to it, right? Her language around it is pretty much like when Maddie decided to jump off, I should have decided to jump off too, right? And it does, to me at least, have the sort of suicidal ideation twinged. So I think that's why too I just see the staircase as that. I see it as the embodiment of like suicidal ideation and like going for it, basically. That does potentially leave some grim ending options in this book, potentially like them not being able to come back, which I think would not be great. I don't know if that's actually where it'll go, but I could see that being a logical conclusion to this theory. I just that's not the ending I want per se.
Right. Yeah, there's also something about like Nick, he doesn't technically do this, but him almost announcing his own funeral, right? Like that preparation of death.
Yeah. And maybe he isn't necessarily expecting to come back.
I mean, yeah, this does read very much kind of like a suicide mission.
Yeah. And let's go ahead and extend this to my second little theory here, which I mentioned I came prepared with who might die. And I probably should have prepared with more than one name, but unfortunately I came with one, and that name is Nick. I think Nick is most likely to die kind of for things you're saying right now, where like I think probably has the lowest value on his own life when it comes to this group. And he is very motivated to find Maddie, to the point where I could very easily see him being confronted with a decision where either he feels this way or is this way, where he has to decide to give up his own life in order to have a chance at saving Maddie's. And I just think he would absolutely take that.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it would be more interesting if he ended up getting somebody else killed with that thought process, though.
I think that's very possible, too. Part of what informed this theory is that he's the most erratic character. I think he doesn't think about consequences nearly as much as he should. And maybe that's, again, related to a lack of care for his own life. That's like how I've interpreted it and why I've chosen him for this. But that could just be the sort of lack of care that could lead to risking anybody.
Yeah, I think Owen and Lore are maybe too important to die. I don't know. It might be possible. I think Hamish could die because he has kids.
Oh my gosh. Last episode you said someone wouldn't die because they had a dog.
I know, but like...
He has like 3 kids too.
I know. I think because he keeps bringing up that he has kids and he wants to survive for them, I think it makes him more likely
It's the stakes.
It's the stakes, yeah. And I think because we have to make the rest of the cast feel as guilty as possible. Like, Nick needs some kind of reckoning.
Yeah, something to bring him to Earth, right?
Yes, you've doomed all of these people for one person who might not even be alive and who probably, let's be honest, probably did not want you to follow him into this space.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I just think if Hamish dies, it's like he's the only one that's kind of successfully, maybe not moved on, but like made something of his life and
True.
is probably happy after everything, right?
That's interesting. And also, well, at least happy enough, right? Because if we follow my idea of like him living Maddie's life, right? Like that almost puts the target on his back.
Yeah.
Like if he's the most like Maddie now, then why wouldn't he be the most likely to see his fate?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think like I don't really want anybody to die, but I think most likely is probably Hamish.
All right, I'll take it. Yeah, I'm hoping no one dies. And I'm kind of leaning towards no one dying as well, but had to put something out there.
Yeah, I feel that.
And I don't think it's infeasible. Just not as likely as no one.
But yeah, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, hopefully we're not just laughing at ourselves at the end of next episode.
Yeah. Watch everybody die. Ugh,
that's
crazy.
like my concern is like, because I think that kind of happened with episode 13 where I was like,
yeah,
they'll all survive.
Yeah.
Stupid.
But obviously for the next one, we're finishing up the rest of this book. And if you have your own thoughts and theories, all the socials are in the description. And thanks for listening.
Bye.